I didn't expect my mother to offer money. Honestly, I've learned not to expect much from her at all. Still, I thought she might pretend to care when I told her Daniel and I were planning a small wedding, just a few friends, maybe in the backyard. But Janice Atwood, my mother, didn't even let me finish. She waved her hand dismissively. "You're not doing that to me, people will talk," she said with a sharp laugh that cut more than it comforted. We were sitting on her deck in June, iced tea and gin sweating in mismatched glasses. My father, Greg, was inside watching golf. I'd come to tell them in person, trying to be respectful. Daniel and I had just gotten engaged. No ring yet, we were saving for a house, but I couldn't stop smiling, until that moment. "I'm serious," she said, slamming her glass down. The ice clinked. "You're my only daughter. You are not running off and getting married like some courthouse bride. That's just tacky." I explained we wanted to keep it simple. We couldn't afford a lavish wedding. She didn't care. "Well," she said, "your grandparents gave us $50,000 a while ago, for your wedding, college, house, all that stuff." I blinked. "What money?" She looked at me like I was playing dumb. "Claire, the check they gave us when you were in school. We did what we had to." My stomach dropped. I had no idea what she was talking about. She shrugged. "Anyway, that's why you should take out a loan now. You can still have a proper wedding. I'll help plan it, obviously." I sat there, stunned. Daniel and I had promised each other, no debt, no credit cards, no ridiculous venues. We wanted to start our life clean, and yet here she was, brushing past all of it. "You were given $50,000, I said slowly, "for my future, and you spent it?" "It's not that simple," she snapped. Her tone shifted, the way it always did when she was about to make herself the victim. "We had bills, emergencies, you never asked. We figured you'd be fine." I knew that voice, the guilt-laced pitch that always made things about her. "Can you believe I won't get to plan my only daughter's wedding after everything I've done for you? You don't know how much I've sacrificed." Later that night, I got a text from my cousin Sarah. "Heard you're shutting your mom out of your wedding. What's going on?" By the next morning, 2 more messages. I hadn't even had time to process what happened, but somehow, her version of the story was already out there, and just like that, I became the villain. I used to tell myself we were just a different kind of family, not cold, just practical, not distant, just busy, but deep down, I always knew something felt off. When I was 9, my cousin Rachel got a brand new silver flute from our grandfather. Everyone clapped. That same week, I wore a winter coat 2 sizes too big, the only one left at the church donation drive. Aunt Marie asked if I needed something better. I smiled and said no. That's what I always did, smile and say no. I learned to be grateful for leftovers. My backpack was secondhand. My school clothes came from aunts, not my mom. Janice used to say, "We're raising Claire to be independent." But really, I was raising myself. College was no different. My cousins had fully stocked dorm rooms and tuition paid in full. I juggled scholarships, part-time jobs, and loans I'm still paying off. I once sold plasma to buy a textbook. I never told anyone. What hurt more than the money was the silence. My grandparents, Eleanor and Howard, never called, not for birthdays, not for holidays. They were polite when I saw them, but distant, like I didn't quite belong. When I was 17, I wrote them a letter thanking them for, well, I wasn't sure what. I told them about school and my dream of becoming a teacher. I bought the stamp with tip money. I never heard back. That letter stayed with me like a bruise, not painful, just always there. I didn't resent them. I just assumed they'd made their choice. Janice rarely brought them up. If I asked, she'd scoff. "Don't hold your breath waiting on that old money," or worse. "They don't care, Claire, they never have." Eventually, I stopped asking. When I graduated, I mailed them a photo, just one. No response, no call, nothing. Meanwhile, my cousins were gifted cars and condo down payments. I didn't expect anything, but I hoped, and then felt ashamed for hoping. Greg, my father, never said much. He didn't lie, but he never corrected her either. I used to think his silence meant agreement. Now I think he just couldn't handle the truth, or the conflict. There were birthdays where I ate stale cake alone because Janice forgot the one she promised. Somehow, I always forgave her. But this was different. This was the truth, finally out in the open. And this time, I wasn't smiling. She used to laugh and say, "What does it matter? It all tastes the same." But it did matter, at least to me. By my 20s, I'd grown used to the idea that love in our family came with terms and conditions. You earned it by staying small, quiet, agreeable. So, I learned not to ask for much, but when Janice said, "Your grandparents gave us $50,000, something in me broke open. For years, I thought I'd just been overlooked, that I hadn't measured up. But now, for the first time, I wondered if the truth had been hidden from me. It was Aunt Marie who cracked the door, without even realizing it. We were in her kitchen 2 days after the blow-up with my mom. I'd stopped by to return a tray from Daniel's birthday dinner, something normal. Over coffee, she asked, "So how's the wedding planning going?" I hesitated. "Mom wants a buffet and ballroom for 200. We were thinking something small, maybe courthouse." Marie raised an eyebrow. "Didn't your grandparents already help with that?" I set the cup down. "Help with what?" She looked puzzled. "The wedding. Janice told me your dad used part of that money to pay off the BMW. I blinked. "What BMW?" Her expression shifted. "You didn't know?" There was a silence where everything shifted, for both of us. That night, while Daniel slept, I drove to my parents' house. I still had a key. The garage was dark. Greg's black BMW was there, polished, spotless, the one he always showed off at family parties. I wasn't sure what I was looking for until I opened the filing cabinet Janice used to keep locked. This time, it wasn't. Tucked between utility bills and old tax folders was a manila envelope stamped BMW Financial Services. Inside, the title, "Paid in Full, Greg Atwood," dated August, the same summer I moved into a dorm with a hand-me-down suitcase and an $800 balance at the bookstore. My hand stayed steady, my heart didn't. There was no mention of me, no tuition, no home fund, just a luxury car. They hadn't forgotten. It wasn't an oversight, it was a choice. They chose the car over me, my future, traded for leather seats and a vanity plate. That's when I understood, I hadn't been neglected, I'd been erased. Still, I gave them a chance to explain, more than they'd ever given me. Sunday afternoon, I arrived with a folder. Janice opened the door in pearl earrings and lipstick, already bracing for a fight. Greg was on the couch, golf murmuring on the TV. "I need to talk to both of you." Janice crossed her arms. "If this is about the wedding, it's about the money." I opened the folder and laid the title on the table, dated August 12, "Paid in Full. The same account you told Aunt Marie came from Grandpa and Grandma. Is that true?" Greg looked away. Janice didn't move. "That car was necessary," she said. "The old one was breaking down." I waited. "We didn't go on a shopping spree," Janice added. "We used the money where it mattered, for the family, and we never promised you anything. You told me there was nothing left, that I should take out loans. You got scholarships, you were always the smart one." She said it like it was praise. "We did what we had to. You're fine now, aren't you?" That line, "You're fine now," sat in the air like smoke. I wasn't fine. I'd borrowed over $40,000. I'd worked weekends, skipped meals, stood in the cold selling textbooks just to eat. "I'm not fine because of you," I said. "I'm fine in spite of you." Greg looked up, but he said nothing. Janice clutched her chest. "I gave you everything I had. I stayed home. I cooked. I sacrificed. You put lies on the table," I said, "and now you're telling the family I'm ungrateful? You've turned everyone against me. You want to destroy your own mother?" "I want the truth," I said, "that's all." And then I walked out. I left the folder on the coffee table. I didn't yell, I didn't slam the door. I just left before they could twist it into something else. By the time I got home, my phone had 4 missed calls, one from Aunt Beth, one from Sarah, 2 unknown. All with the same message: "What's going on with you and your mom? She's heartbroken. You need to call her." No one asked what she did. No one asked if what I said was true. They just assumed I was the problem, again. But Janice doesn't scream unless she chooses to. Now she plays quiet, wounded, betrayed. She'll cry to anyone who'll listen, and they'll listen. Because when a mother says, "I don't know what I did wrong," people believe her. And just like that, she became the victim. And I became the girl who couldn't forgive her own parents. I didn't call them right away. The folder sat on my kitchen table for 2 days before I opened my laptop and typed a short, careful email. No accusations, just facts. I told them what Janice had said about the money, and how I'd recently learned it had been spent, not on my tuition, a down payment, or a wedding, but on other things. I attached a scan of the BMW title. I asked, "Did you know?" I braced myself for silence, or worse, For them to ask me not to stir up old drama, but Eleanor called that night. Her voice was frail, quieter than I remembered. "Claire, I got your email," she said, after a pause. "A soft one, not angry but thoughtful." She continued, "We didn't know, Claire, we had no idea." She explained that the money had been a gift, intended for my education, wedding, and housing. "We didn't want you starting out in debt. You were the last grandchild. We wanted to do it right." I could barely speak, my throat tightened. "They told us you didn't want anything," she said, "that you were proud, that you refused help." I paused, struggling to find words. "We kept our distance after that," Eleanor went on. "We didn't want to embarrass you. All those years of silence, of imagined rejection, it wasn't them. It wasn't from us. I sent a letter once," I said, voice small, "when I was 17. I never saw it," Eleanor replied, her tone resigned. "I'm sorry, sweetheart." She spoke softly of Howard's declining health and asked if I would come visit sometime. No pressure. I agreed. When we hung up, I sat in the dark, alone with a strange sense of grief. The realization wasn't that they'd abandoned me. It was that love had always been there but had been blocked, redirected, withheld, like a letter never delivered. I didn't feel anger. I felt the loss of something beautiful, something I hadn't even known was missing. We got married on a Wednesday. No aisle, no seating chart, just a short ceremony under the maple tree in Daniel's parents' backyard. I wore a navy dress I'd picked up the week before, and he wore the tie I'd once joked made him look like someone's dependable husband. Guess I was right. Eleanor sat in the front row, wearing a cream cardigan and sunglasses. Even though the sky was overcast, Howard couldn't make it, his health was too fragile, but she brought a photo of them from their wedding in 1957. Afterward, she showed it to me, her hands trembling just slightly. "We had lemon cake," she said. "Yours was better." We didn't talk about Janice or Greg. She didn't ask if they were invited. I didn't offer. There were no speeches, no DJ, just soft music and a handful of people who'd shown up for us, not for a show. Daniel held my hand the whole time. After the ceremony, he leaned in and asked, "You okay?" I nodded. I was, not because it was perfect, but because it was ours. Later that night, after the guests left and the dishes were stacked in the sink, I opened my laptop. I changed the beneficiaries on my accounts, removed Greg and Janice from everything: insurance, will, emergency contacts. Not in anger, but in clarity. I don't remember crying. I remember breathing slow and steady, like I'd just stepped out of a long, windowless room. We didn't post pictures online, no announcements. I didn't tell Sarah or Aunt Beth, or any of the cousins who'd called weeks before. Let them wonder. I didn't owe them the truth. I didn't owe them anything. The envelope came in early spring, no return address, but the postmark was local. Inside was a copy of the cashier's check Eleanor and Howard had given my parents, $50,000 made out to Greg and Janice Atwood, dated July 10th, the summer before my freshman year. Attached was a yellow sticky note in Eleanor's handwriting: "For your record, sweetheart." I stared at it for a long time. The ink on the check hadn't faded. My name wasn't on it, not even in the memo line. I slipped it into a plastic sleeve and filed it away in the same folder with the BMW title. I labeled it Future Misused. It sits at the bottom of my desk drawer now. I don't open it often, but I know it's there. Sometimes people ask if I've made peace with my parents. I tell them, we're in touch. That's not a lie. We exchange birthday cards, and they get photos at Christmas, but we don't talk about the wedding, the money, or the fact that they haven't met my husband. I don't need an apology. I don't need their understanding. I needed the truth. They didn't give it to me, but the paper did. They told me I was ungrateful, that I imagined the distance, that family meant forgiveness, no matter what. But sometimes, the deepest betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It's handed to you with a smile, buried in the silence between what was promised and what was stolen. If you grew up thinking love had conditions, or that being the strong one meant getting less, just leave one word you wish someone had said to you. You don't have to explain, just write it.